Hello and welcome to Guitarist Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.guitarist.com. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and it's my honor and great pleasure to be speaking with guitarist Klaus Elchstradt from the band Ugly Kid Joe. And I got to tell you, like a lot of people, I'm an Ugly Kid Joe fan from back in the day. And one thing I got to commend you guys on is, like a lot of bands, you could have probably just kind of lived off your music from the past. But I dig the fact you guys continue to put out new music.
We try.
And so talk about like the band's been back together about what, 10 years? Is that correct, Klaus?
Yeah, about a little over. Yeah.
And so when you guys got back together, talk about that decision that if we're going to get back together, we're going to continue to put out new music. Because again, a lot of bands aren't doing that anymore. Because let's be honest, who's buying CDs, right?
No doubt. The getting back together again was, Whit and I actually had always been friends, since we were 15. So even after the band broke up, actually most of us were still in touch, good friends. But he and I would go up to Tahoe and play with this band called Fortress. It was like just a fun cover band. They did a bunch of metal songs, and Whit was kind of one of their several singers, and I'd go up there every now and then and guest. And so we just kind of were like, man, it's still fun to get up here, even though we're 40, like it's still fun to get up here and play and together, and then do some covers, Priest or Sabbath or something like that. And so we still kind of had that still in us. Like this is fun, we do a show, an Ugly Kid Joe show if it ever came to that, reunion or something. And then funny enough, within all of a sudden, Dave Portman who went on to become a really good really successful producer, was producing the new Godsmack record.
Wow.
This is like around 2000. I want to say 2010, 2011. I think it was the Oracle. I'm not quite sure. And he's in the studio with Shannon Larkin, and they're probably reminiscing. Certainly, there was some beers were being drinking, and drinking, and some memories were being shared. And how fun would it be if we got the band or at least got together to make a record? We could do it. Dave had a studio at the time, so he's like, we could just do it in my studio. So Shannon called me, Dave called me, they called Whit, and we just agreed to do it. So Whit and I got together and kind of went through all our demos and ideas of songs, and he and I kind of pre-produced a bunch of songs together, and then we met in the studio and put together the EP. And we didn't know what was going to happen. We just said, well, at least we got an EP out. Yeah. And maybe we'll tour. And then Whit was like, I don't know if we're going to tour. I was even like, I don't know if I want to tour. Yeah. Especially in bands and stuff. And so he just started, as they say, pounding the pavement and making phone calls to, people he knew in the industry, I guess you could say, booking agents, people like that. Wow. In particular in Europe, because that's kind of where we ended our career, so to speak. That's where our last sort of big tours were. So he got in touch with some people, and next thing you know, we're going on tour in Europe.
Well, I'm glad that you guys came back. Now, let me ask you, this may sound like a crazy question, but what would you say came quicker? The rise of the band when you guys were like breaking out in a big way and you're all over radio and MTV with everything about you, or would you say the fall was a little quicker?
I'd say very even. I mean, the fall was in a sense slower, but if you really, obviously the rise was meteoric in the sense that we went,
way up. Yeah.
If you we literally went to the top 10, where we were in company with like Michael Jackson and I can't even remember who was else at the time, someone like MC Hammer or something. Wow, this is like household name type of
recognition.
Recognition, yeah. And then so that was really fast, and then it dropped slowly but surely is all I can say. So I guess the rise was faster, and the fall, because you got to understand that even though in U.S. that whole era, especially the early 90s, when all like the more or less heavy metal bands started falling off real quick, we went to Europe and we toured for a couple more years and actually had some success, even with Menace and Variety record. And the went son off of it we did all right there, and we toured with Van Halen, Bon Jovi over there, and it probably seemed a lot faster in the U.S. than it did over in we still.
Oh yeah.
They can play Australia, no problem.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation with a drummer, Mark Scott from the band Trickster, and he was telling me like, one week they had a number one single on Dial MTV, if you remember that show from back in the day. And he says by the next week we couldn't get our videos played on MTV or any radio anymore. It's just the fall was crazy,
Yeah, again, we were lucky. We had pretty good worldwide success. access at the time, and so still markets for us that we could actually, we hadn't fallen off their radar. We're still, I guess you could say, what's the word that people use now? I forget the word.
Yeah, I got you, but the point too, why I enjoy the fact that I get a chance to talk to you today is because, while everybody knows that song, everything about you and Cats in the Cradle, what I dig is that I tell you guys have released four singles off a new album before it's even out, and that's all I've heard. And based on those 4 songs, I'm going to go out and get the album because I think, okay, first of all, the 4 singles, they each stand out on their own. They kind of show every side of Ugly Kid Joe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good assessment of it because they are different. And, this band has changed in the sense that, members have changed here and there, but it's pretty much me, Whit, and Dave that are main writers.
Yeah.
But we all write, the 3 of us, so we all write very differently, to tell you the truth. And so some records it's more, let's say, Klaus heavy, like America's Wanted, and then some records are more Dave heavy, like, than they used to be. And then this record's very Whit heavy, so it's like everybody kind of, and then it's everybody else kind of fills in all the gaps, and there's always a song from each guy on every record. So, and we go through different eras too. I mean, obviously it's been 30 years, so
yeah.
People change and people grow, or they progress, whatever you want to say.
I think you guys have definitely progressed, and what's funny is I don't know what your secret is, but like I went on your Facebook page the other day and I was just looking at what the band currently looks like, and you guys you dress a lot of like you used to, and you look the same. You still, I don't know what your secret is, but you look just as young as ever.
Well, thanks, but it's this cream that uses the rhino tusk. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is.
It's called Photoshop. No, I'm just kidding. It's called telling the cameraman, do not take pictures from below. Stay above us.
Yeah. Well, whatever works, and
and put that goddamn. Don't make that light so bright.
Yeah. But like, just let's talk about some of the new songs. Also, that ain't living. I mean, to me, that you could be talking about anything from a guy that has a job that he hates going to every day, but he has to go to make a living. I mean, you're kind of like the everyman's band, if you know what I mean, and that's kind of got an AC/DC vibe to me. That's a fun song.
Kinda AC/DC.
Well, I mean, it does. Yeah.
It's full, but we were always like, God, this is almost too much AC/DC. But then we're like, so what? It's our favorite band ever, and it's a 100% original song. I mean, we didn't rip them off in terms of like a riff. It's just it has that exact element of an AC/DC song.
I mean, and let's be honest. Don't most AC/DC records you listen to have that same kind of vibe? And if they can get away with it, why not?
No, I mean, like I said, it's a complete. It's not an AC/DC ripoff. It's an AC/DC
influence,
homage to AC/DC, influence and homage and all that stuff. And so, as a band, we're like, I mean, anything we do, it's us playing it, and we did write it, and it is all original, and it's one of 10 songs,
Yeah. That's my point. Like I said, I've heard 4 of the 10 songs on so far, and I'm like, if the first 4 songs are this good and this different, because I'm an old school guy, I want to get the whole package. I love looking at the artwork. I love, that's like my complaint with a lot of bands that as great as it is, they put out like a 5-song EP. I miss the days like of a full album, like a lot of bands used to do back in the day.
Yeah, all of them did back in the day. I mean, and I get it too, that why you don't anymore, because
who's buying music, right?
Yeah, it's almost a waste of studio time, because you're like, I mean, let's just pick 3 songs that we think will do well and just do that. But Whit spearheaded this whole record, and he was like, I want to do a record. I want to do vinyl. I want to do, like, where you can open it up and there's a rad picture of the band, like, this is why, for someone like Whit, this is like why he got into music, was because he just was such a fan, and his dream was to be able to do that. And now that we're in a position that we do it, even if you're not really supposed to make records anymore with, like, artwork and big fold-out vinyl, let's just do it. I mean, and usually we sell them. Like, we don't print up that many vinyls, but you do sell them because you sell them at your shows. There's our vinyl collectors, and then there's the true fans like you that are like, I want the whole damn package,
Yeah.
And so it's it's not in vain. You know, it's not just sitting in a storeroom somewhere. It's actually some people really like it, and they'll go out and get it. And it's also nice for I think there's kind of an exciting moment as it being kids that grew up during the era of the record and the poster and the fold out and all that. It's nice for us to sometimes just, when we finally see the final product, to kind of look at it.
Takes you back to the days of like, Kiss Alive, and the,
yeah, totally. All the records back then,
Yeah, and the thing is that too is vinyl's kind of fun in a funny way been making a huge comeback the last maybe about 10 to 15 years. And I talked to a lot of guys in bands, obviously, and they tell, or even a lot of fans, and they tell me, I don't even have a turntable, but I'm buying everything on vinyl just because I want to have a collection, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy, but yeah.
No, I know. I always usually get a vinyl record when we make records and we get vinyl, but I don't really know what to do with it. But I just like to look at it for a couple of days, or maybe put it on the mantle, or put it on the wall.
Yeah, and I even seen in the store like in Target, they you can get a turntable there, and it's got Bluetooth and everything. So that's kind of a new thing too. And talking again, That Ain't Livin'. I'm talking about how it's really kind of got a nice AC/DC influence. As a guitar player, how big of an influence were both Malcolm and Angus to you growing up?
When I grew up, when I was starting playing guitar, my biggest influence were Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, wow.
But right before I started playing guitar, my sister, who was a year older than me, turned me on to all the old AC/DC. She had like all the first 5 records or whatever before they even came out with Back in Black.
Yeah.
So she was a huge Bon Scott AC/DC fan. So AC/DC is one of the first bands whose songwriting I studied as a guitar player. I was trying to figure out, and I figured, what is the simplest rock band I could study, like the entry level of like arrangement of songs, and that's awesome. And I was like, it's AC/DC. So I started writing down. I remember writing down, like, I forget, it was like the Dirty Deeds record or something.
Yeah.
I'd write the name of the song, and I'd write like verse or intro riff, verse riff over intro riff. Then I'd write chorus, and then trippy part, or I didn't even know the word bridge yet, a different part, and then guitar solo, and then it's chorus 2 times at the end, fade out, or 2 times at the end with and then lead towards over the end, and I started using them as a template in terms of songwriting. It was one of the first, without having going into a songwriting class. It was a kind of class. So just as musically is concerned, super influential. I never was a huge Angus. I didn't study Angus leads, but I more studied the band in terms
songwriting.
of the riffage and the arrangement. And of course, I really did study Bon Scott's lyrics, because I'm really into lyrics, and Bon Scott would arguably be my favorite lyricist of all time.
Oh wow! And the reason I asked that is because, I was curious, when the song, That Ain't Livin' was written, was it based off of your riff? And let's talk about the creation of that riff, because
it was an actual Whit Crane mouth riff. He had this, and he got together with Jeff Curran, who is the guitar player in Yellowcake, which is a band Whit did a few years ago, and we're still good friends.
Wow!
And he's a great guitar player, and he's in a band called Dallas Fresca, and we all went to Mallorca, and we're kind of trying to write, but we ended up just kind of partying. But we did get a couple of song ideas one night or 2 nights, and we left. Me and Dave left, and him and Jeff stayed, and they found a dude that had a rehearsal room in an underground parking garage with a drum set and an amp. And so they went there, and they really worked on that song, and we had like a video. He put his iPhone in the corner of the room, recorded it, and that was the first demo of that song, and it sounded great right there, just a drum, guitar, vocal.
I tell you, that's kind of crazy to hear the way that it kind of came to life, because the riff the riff is just killer. It's I think it's one of the first things you notice when you listen to the song, and interesting thing about AC/DC, I don't know if you had a chance to hear the latest album they put out a couple years ago. Interesting thing is Malcolm Young's influence is all over that album. Oddly enough, he does not play a lick on it, and part of the reason, I guess, is a lot of those are old riffs that him and Angus wrote, and somehow he's all over there.
That's rad.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Yeah, and you mentioned Eddie Van Halen, who recently, just I don't know if celebrate's the right word, but we're kind of 2 years since his passing.
2 years. It's 2 years. Whatever.
Hard to believe it. But what an amazing player that guy was. He's another one that people will be surprised to learn could not read a lick of music, but yet look at that guy's legacy. And then you mentioned Randy Rhoads. You know, I don't know anybody besides Randy that's maybe like got the huge fan base, huge legacy, just really off of those two Ozzy albums. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean those albums were. I mean I probably played those two records a million times. You know, that was, I would say, 2 of my top 10 right there. Those 2 records.
Wow.
Held Back in Black and the 2 Ozzy records with Randy were just practically the rock and roll heavy metal Bible right there.
Yeah. And okay, another one of the latest singles you guys put out, I think this is the current one, is for the song Failure. And in prepping for the interview today, I was listening to that and watching the video the other night, and again, another great Ugly Kid Joe song, and it's a very different sounding song, obviously, than That Ain't Livin', which I think is a reason it stands out. And a lot of people would not write about failure, but I think that's one thing we kind of everybody has in common. We all fall down, we all fail at one time or another in our life. It's an interesting thing to write about, but I think it's something everybody can relate to.
Yeah, we certainly can.
Yeah.
And everybody can, and it's like, that song is kind of more about failing in love, failing with a woman, failing with a relationship, but I never get it right. It's like, you all have those days where you're like, God dang it. Like today, I'm like, I was doing so well, and then I forgot to call you for the interview.
That's all right. These things happen. We're doing it now.
Damn it. And we just started doing interviews for this record just this week, so I'm like, man, don't fail. But yeah, no, I mean, of course, that's kind of one of the, what's the first thing you probably, if you go to therapy, the first thing they tell you is don't beat yourself up about failing, or the first thing if you're having trouble, let's say with drinking, and someone's like, I read this book about it, and I was like, they're like, don't beat yourself up if you screw up, just get back on the horse, get up, and just be like, okay, I blew it, and I'm going to start again. And I'm not saying that's the message of the song, but I'm saying that, yes, everybody, it's kind of weird to think that, it's weird when you see someone that's super, let's say, rich and famous, and then you hear a story about where they totally fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Like wow, and then you're like, wait, couldn't you have just called somebody? But people make mistakes. It's just a fact of life. That's funny. My friend put that song on at the bar the other night just to mess with me a little bit, and it was so funny because he was like looking at people like, see this song? He wrote this song or something.
He's right here, the guy.
This band, it's called Failure, and the person next to me is like, yeah, I can relate to this.
Yeah,
and like 2 or 3 people also just said it, and we kind of had a good laugh out of it. I was like, everybody fails.
Yeah, and
quite regularly.
What's the thing they tell you in AA? The first problem is admitting you got a problem.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, there it is. Like, come on, man. Nobody's perfect. Not even close.
And it's interesting. You mentioned kind of
not
being
even Tom Brady.
Yeah. Mentioned about being in about a relationship. I mean, there are people that are in a relationship that they beat each other up, they fight with one another, they're really bad for one another, and it's like they just stay in the relationship. Why? Yeah. And now I was kind of interested because there's kind of 2 eras of the band. Like when I first got into the band back in 1991, and and you guys were all over MTV and that, and then there are people that probably just kind of discovering Ugly Kid Joe since you got back 10 years ago that know nothing about. What's that like, to kind of be getting new fans that know nothing about what came before?
That actually hit us a few years ago. We were touring in Europe, and we played in Poland, and there were these young kids, like a few of them, like 3, 4, and they were young. They were like 20, 19.
Wow.
And they were they were like wearing leather and like a cool shirt and spikes and, nose ring, and they were like young, cool rock and roll kids, And we kind of were like, we had to talk to them. We're like, what are you doing here? Like, is your dad a fan? Is your mom? Does somebody bring you here? Why are you? You're really young, but you seem really into the band. You're singing along. We can see that they're new to the songs, the lyrics to the newer songs.
Yeah.
And they just kind of told us, I think just maybe because it was Poland, it's a little bit more, they were behind the times.
Yeah.
That a lot of our stuff, we didn't get MTV back in the day, so I guess generationally, they've always just kind of found music through other ways. And one of the things she said is, I started going on YouTube and just, looking at stuff, and sure enough, I'd find something like Motorhead. She said, I saw it was like Ozzy or Motorhead or Judas Priest, and it's that whole thing where it says, if you like this band, you might like this band.
Yeah.
So they start to kind of, and that's how they figure it out. So it's kind of less judgment. It's not like you're at the mercy of like the radio station programmers or MTV. You're just like, oh, no, I'll try this then. No, I don't like that. No, I'll try this. Oh, I like this. And then she's like, they were telling us like, oh, then we just like saw that you guys were playing in town, so we came.
And what's that been like for you, Klaus? I mean, because again, since the band's come back, there's all this new technology. YouTube didn't exist, when you guys broke up, and it's kind of interesting because to me, in a lot of ways, like you said, kids and people are just discovering music that way. I think it's a great way. You don't need MTV to get to play your video. You have your own YouTube channel. People want to know anything about Ugly Kid Joe. They go there and they find everything they want to know about the band.
Totally, and it's cool. I mean, like in that situation, it's really great because we're kind of like, oh wow, that's pretty rad. Like you just basically organically kind of searched around, found something you liked, and came to our show. And because that like I said, we assumed it was like a dad or something. But yeah, it's a trippy world right now. I think it I'm not a kid anymore, so I'm like scouring the web trying to find new music I like. I admit I just don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
So I just sometimes just listen to, if I just like hear some of the radio that I like, I just then go in Spotify and listen to it,
Yeah, and so other thing I was curious, Klaus, is when Ugly Kid Joe did kind of fall apart and break up for a few years. I know Whit did Life of Agony and Shannon did Godsmack. Did you do anything musically, or did you just like kind of start to live a everyday 9-to-5 job?
I ended up being in a band shortly. What I was really doing at the time was I was kind of wanting to maybe be a producer, so I was producing local bands in my garage, like just like a little home studio. And I was thinking about going that route, and then I started. I did play in a band that we did one record with. I forget what label it was, called Broham.
Okay.
And it was kind of rap metal.
Oh, interesting.
And there's some cool, there's this one song in particular that sounds like AC/DC, and I was like, yeah, that'd be me.
That's me, yeah.
Trying to smash this into a rap song, and then and so little things here and there. I never really got into a solid working band after that. And this is really the only true band I've ever been in. Like I said, I've played in bands, I've produced bands.
And what's it like to be on the other side of
a few bands, but never like where we actually started doing it?
What is it like for you as a musician that's kind of made it to go from being a successful band on the other side of producing another band and kind of helping them do their thing?
It can be really frustrating because you want to play, or you want to change parts. Dave's really good at it, and he told me himself. He said one of the things you do have to learn to do is deal with a lot of personalities. Yeah. And you kind of have to babysit, and especially as he's becoming the elder statesman. He's now, let's say he's 42, and the kids that are coming in are 21.
Wow.
You kind of have to deal with some of that shit you got to deal with little kids, basically. I mean, some of them are 19, and they've got these egos, or they've got these whatever issues, and you're like, oh yeah, we used to be like it. So I think it's great, like for Dave in particular, that he has experienced both sides, because he does give you a really cool perspective. Because
I would think so.
I know what you're thinking, because you're the lead guitar player, and you're in your head, this lead's going to be this rad thing, this rad opus, and I get what you're saying, but I'm also listening to the singer. I've got to listen to the singer too, and she's thinking I don't really want to sing over all that kind of shit in the background. You know, like you guys got to compromise. You kind of become the mediator of a band, and I think I don't know. I think that's hard. I mean, that's hard work.
I think another aspect of that would be too, it's not necessarily your band, and you might have a thought of, well, if I was in the band, I'd do it this way, but no, you're not in the band.
You kind of have to back off.
Yeah.
You actually kind of have to back off. You can say, you got to be really careful about how you say things, because you might end up getting fired.
And so I'd imagine once Ugly Kid Joe got back together and you saw the reaction fans were having to that, that had to be a great feeling, oh, wow, they actually missed us,
Yeah, no doubt. There was times, certain shows, no one showed up. We're like, okay, we expected this, and then all of a sudden, we come around the corner and we get a show is sold out, and it's for real. Oh my God, it's we never even left. We played Paris the first time after we coming back, and it was almost the same amount of people that showed up the last time we played there. It was almost 1,000 people, and they were pretty much going ape shit. And it was kind of this weird deja vu. I didn't think it was going to be like this, but this is amazing. This is a huge icing on the cake for us to have basically a second
life, kind of.
As a kid, as a dude wanting to be in a band and hoping so that's kind of the moment you
kind of your dream came true for a second time. You got a second chance, and not a lot of people get that second chance. And I'd imagine a huge part of that for the fans is, hey, you know, these guys went away for a while. They're back now. So when a band goes away and doesn't play for, you know, a good 10 years, and then they come back, it's like, wow, they're back. You know, you really get that feeling that, hey, the fans really missed you. You know.
No, it felt great. Like, you know, there's certain shows when we got back where you're just like, I'm really grateful. I mean, I even got a little bit, you know, maybe teary-eyed about it. Like, oh my God, this feels like 1993, you know, or 1992. It's like, I didn't think that was ever going to be possible again, you know? Especially, I mean, we talked about the rise and the fall. You're like, it's over. It's done. It's over. That was the run. That was the 15 minutes, or in our case, maybe 25 minutes of fame and success, and it's over, and it'll never happen again. You know, that's like lightning cannot strike in the same place. And then, you know, it's not exactly lightning anymore, but it's still like pretty amazing moments where you're like, cause like I was telling you earlier, the thing you really, you know, I'm a writer, and I do really love the creative part. But as like a musician and a guitar player, your dream is to play in front of a crowd.
Sure.
And songs, and that we still get to do here and there. So it's pretty cool.
Another song I want to ask about, another one of the singles. I think this is the first one you heard, "Long Road." I think for Ugly Kid Joe, this is kind of a different type of song. I mean, probably closest thing I compare to maybe "Cats in the Cradle." I know that was a cover of somebody else's song, but. Kind of a mellow, or I don't know how you would describe it, but it's a cool tune. So let's talk about that song.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Dave wrote that, and he's from the South. He's from Louisiana, and a lot of his music. But he's also the producer, and so he's just a very prolific songwriter. Like he could write a nu metal song, like a really dark, super heavy song, and then he could write a total, because that's he's been producing bands like that for 20 years now. Everything from Down to Evanescence to Godsmack to Slipknot. So he really has a good grasp on that really heavy shit. But he's also, at heart, he's a total like Southern rock. He's a softie, you know. He's a Southern rock country guy, and so he writes these really fun, like feel good, sometimes sad songs.
Because you know, listening to that song today, prepping for the interview, I don't know if you think this is a fair description, but to me, it kind of reminded me of something that maybe the Eagles would even do. You know,
100%. That's where his absolute, like, the core of his musical being probably starts somewhere around the Eagles, and you know, Joe Walsh and that kind of thing.
And it's interesting, like you're saying, in these 4 songs I've heard so far off the new album. I can really see where you say everybody contributes, everybody brings their influence. You can hear that in these 4 songs.
Yeah, it's actually, if you really think about, most of these 4 songs actually were written by different people, each one. So,
and I guess the final track I want to ask about is "Kill the Pain," another great kind of rock tune, I guess you'd say. But it's just one of those songs got my attention. I thought this is another great Ugly Kid Joe song, and it really stands out on its own, you know.
That's a Dave Fortman. That's what I'm talking about. He's a very prolific writer, and his songs can be quite different from each other, you know. And I think just the whole band is on fire, and especially you mentioned Whit Crane as a vocalist. I mean, that's what I think really makes a great vocalist. I kind of compare it to how, you know, growing up, you know, how many of us thought all those great Who songs were written by Roger Daltrey, and you find out he's kind of a voice, whereas Pete Townsend wrote most of the Who songs. And I think Whit Crane's another example of that. You know, he doesn't necessarily have to write every song on the album, but he can deliver the goods. Yeah, I think he's without a doubt gotten better over the years, and I think now he's just. I mean, we see bands all the time, and I mean, he never loses his voice. Knock on wood. I shouldn't even say that out loud. And he always can sing for an hour and a half at least. I mean, he's usually the guy that wants to do longer sets, and we're like, no. And he's like, I want to do a cover. Let's do this. So it's kind of, you know, we're very fortunate to have a singer that actually has such a powerful voice.
I mean, I'm just amazed.
And that's like, it's his passion to sing and to sing a lot.
I'm just amazed when you look at like the 2 bands he's really known for, you know, Ugly Kid Joe and Life of Agony. Even right there, the 2 bands are so different, you know, and he does different things. And I think if you're going to be in a different band, that's why you do it. Because over here in Ugly Kid Joe, we do something different. But he shows what he can do in both bands, I think.
Well, I think it actually was one of the things that better singer is that he actually was forced to try different styles, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe even the fact that others write, you know, songs for him to sing, like, hey, sing this melody, which is something that might be out of his wheelbox until he actually tries it, and then obviously that gives him a lot of confidence to say, oh, I can actually sing like that, you know, I can sing all the, you know, the Life of Agony stuff. And that's a whole other, you know, I didn't write any of that.
Yeah.
There's a whole other singer that wrote that or sang it, I should say.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, I was going to ask you, Klaus, would you say you're the lead guitar player? Like, how do you and Dave go about splitting up the guitar parts on all the songs? Is it just kind of whatever you wrote, or? Oh,
I'm definitely not the lead guitar player. We definitely trade off leads as often as we possibly can, you know. I'm kind of good at some things, and he's really good at other things. So we try to like
stay in your place, yeah.
Kind of like this song. I think this song would be better with a Dave Fortman lead. That's what we would say, or this would be like a Klaus lead. So that's kind of where it's at.
So do you say, like, for example, Long Road would be a good example of that? Well, since Dave wrote that song, we'll let him kind of shine.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, he demoed that song before we even ever attempted it. He already had all the leads written. I'm like, hey, you go, boy. It's like, it's on.
And you know, I was going to ask, have you guys started doing any live shows? I mean, the album's not even out, but what are the plans as far as touring behind it?
We toured. We just got off a tour in Europe for about 6 weeks. Gosh, actually, almost 2 months. And we started playing one of the songs live just and towards the end of the tour. And then we are about to go to the UK in about 2.5 weeks, and we are planning to play possibly 3 new songs on that tour.
Wow.
So we'll have we'll be playing some of the new stuff, which is always exciting.
And what's the release date for the new CD?
I believe it's October 21st.
Well, okay, will you guys have physical copies, or initially it's just going to be released digitally?
Oh no, it's gonna. I mean, you can already pre-order the whole.
Okay.
Like the vinyl packs with the T-shirt
cool.
and all kinds of stuff, but there's gonna be CD, vinyl, cassette, even. Don't ask why.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I interviewed Dora last year, and her last album she was releasing even on cassette. I think even Rat Pack Records here in the United States, a lot of their new stuff are releasing on cassettes. It's kind of an old school way of doing it, I guess.
It is what it is. I don't know what it is. It is, and hopefully we'll sell them. You know, they're not going to sit in the box somewhere, but obviously we're not going to print out a lot of them.
And I know the European fans, they have a lot more appreciation or maybe more dedication to the bands they love, and a lot of people here in the United States. But probably part of the reason too you guys are so huge over in Europe is because aren't you signed to a European label? I believe it's Metville.
Right. Yeah, right now we are absolutely, and it kind of came at the 11th hour, but they'll probably push it more there. But
that's what I'm saying.
They do have an American. What do you call it? An American. I want to say A&R guy or whatever.
Yeah,
so
because
like the press here, and we are talking about doing a U.S. tour coming up, like a full-blown tour. So we are kind of excited about that because it's been a long time since we've toured here.
And like, if you guys tour in the U.S., I guess it partly depend on how well the album is selling. But do you think you like do a headlining tour, or would you want to get like on a tour, maybe opening for a major act?
I think right now we're talking about doing a fun headlining.
That would be cool.
Club tour, something like that.
That would be cool to see. And you know, we talked. I was going to ask you about the other big hit you guys had back in the day. Of course, was "Cats in the Cradle." I was curious, whose suggestion was it for you guys to cover that? Because again, you look at those two songs, "Everything About You" and "Cats in the Cradle." Again, I think
they could be more opposite, really.
Yeah, and that's why I think they worked. You know.
"Cats" was a song actually that we would do live. It was a song. It was Whit's idea even before I was in the band.
Okay.
The band sort of morphed into Ugly Kid Joe, the band before that he was in, and that was one of the songs that he and his sister loved that song as kids, and it was something they just kind of grew up singing together, and kind of for fun. They were like, let's cover that song. You know, it's always kind of fun to have, because that was a real heavy metal band he was in, and they would do that kind of surprise. But and so we just kept playing it live. I mean, honestly, when I joined the band with him, we kind of had a major overhaul with the band, so we needed music and we needed live music. So we had not a lot of songs, so we would do a few covers, and that was one of them. And by the time we were going to do America's Least Wanted, we realized we might need another song. And then someone said, "What about that No one said it. I think we just said, well, we do know Cats.
Yeah.
We've been playing it live for a few years, and so why don't we just do it? And we kind of, Mark did a fantastic job producing that song, and we really had fun, with all the different sitar sounds and things like that. And I mean, honestly, we had absolutely no plans on releasing that as a single ever.
Because what's interesting about it is, I think a lot of people like me, when Ugly Kid Joe released that as a single back in the day, are hearing the song for the first time, and then once you learn, oh, that's a cover song. Like I went and eventually heard the original song, and I thought, oh wow, this is cool. So this is the original version. A lot of people might not have heard the song if Ugly Kid Joe had never done it, and that's a cool thing too about covering a song. And that's the thing. But Ugly Kid Joe, I could think of a handful of bands, Extreme, Mr. Big, these bands that had a huge hit, like everything about you. People think, oh, they're a one-hit wonder, and that's not really the case, because as we've been talking, you got a lot of more hits. But that's the song when or Cats in the Cradle, when they think of Ugly Kid Joe, they think that. Or you take like Mr. Big, they had a hit with To Be With You. Everybody thinks they're a ballad band, but if you go listen to any of the records, a lot of it is metal. That's totally crazy. And so what was that like for you? Because again, it's kind of a double-edged sword. At the time, you're all over MTV and radio, and then even now, I bet that's in the encore. When you guys, one of the last songs you play in the set, because that's what everybody wants to hear.
Right. I mean, I hate to sound redundant, but it is what it is. Like, you have a hit. Maybe it doesn't represent what all the other things you do, but you did it, and it's part of you, and thank God it was successful, because that opened up so many doors for you to basically play all your other songs and make records with all your other songs and go tour with Ozzy and Van Halen and Judas Priest.
Right there, that says to me, like, there's not a truckload of bands that can that would be able to go out there and play with an Ozzy and a Def Leppard and a Van Halen. You guys kind of can play with a lot of people, so that's got to make it cool too.
We've been super lucky. We've almost, there's literally there's only a couple bands left out there that would be still on the list. One of them being AC/DC, of course, that we didn't tour with, but we almost played with all our favorite bands growing up. Literally, we just did a show with the Scorpions recently.
Wow.
We did a show with Judas Priest in Virginia Beach. We obviously did the Ozzy tour, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, all these huge bands that we all grew up loving. We did a show with Guns N' Roses recently. We did a show with the Cult in Romania. We did a show with it's so
everybody.
Cool, to have said, oh my God, it's starting to become a thing over the years. We've almost opened for everybody we grew up loving.
Yeah, and cool. and again, what I tell people about Ugly Kid Joe is I urge them to go. I haven't even heard entire album, like I said. I've heard the 4 singles, but based on 4 out of 10 songs, I think those 4 songs are that good. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. And that's the other thing, like that I'm really looking forward to this release, maybe more than the last one, because if 4 out of the 10 songs are that good, it's like wow, it's not one of those albums, I don't think, where just got one hit song, or one song that's good. It leaves me thinking, okay, the rest has got to be just as good.
I hope you like the rest. And I do, and I think there's a bunch of other songs that I like as much as the ones you mentioned. So I think it's a good sign. It's a good sign for you. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Def Leppard and Ozzy, and I think again, to put Ugly Kid Joe in with those 2 artists, all 3 of you continue. Ozzy just released a new album. Def Leppard just put out a great new album, and I think that's why the Ugly Kid Joe fans keep turning out for you guys. And I'd like to thank you, Klaus, for taking time to talk to me. As you can tell, I'm a fan, and like I said, I'm digging the new album, what I've heard of it, and I urge people to go and get it. And that's my plan, October 21st. I'm going to put in my pre-order when I get home today, because I know it's that good. But this interview we just did will be going up sometime next week. I'll let you know. So if you enjoyed doing this, let's do it again down the line.
Absolutely. And hopefully, if this comes to fruition about touring the States, hopefully we tour near you, and you can come by.
Well, hopefully so, yeah. You take care, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.
I really appreciate it.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.